Alibaba, The House That Jack Ma Built, by Duncan Clark. This summary is brought to you by Hook My Book. This book tells the story of Jack Ma, a man who started as an English teacher and built one of the world's largest companies, Alibaba. Alibaba is a company that sells everything from clothes to electronics to food. Alibaba's IPO was the largest global IPO ever, and it's been very successful. Jack is an icon for China's booming private sector and the gatekeeper to hundreds of millions of middle-class consumers. About Jack Ma. Jack is a very successful businessman, and his company, Alibaba, is one of the most successful companies in the world. Alibaba is a business that specializes in e-commerce, logistics, and finance. Alibaba has been able to dominate these industries because of its strengths in these areas. Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, was not originally born into a wealthy family, so he worked hard to become successful. He started as the head of a small online commerce company, and then later founded Alibaba, a technology company that is now one of the world's largest. He is known for his unusual looks, which he has turned to his advantage. He is famous for his fun-loving personality and his dedication to his company. Jack Ma was born in 1964. Jack's mother worked on a factory production line. His father worked as a photographer. Jack fell in love with the English language and literature and became a tourist guide. In 1978, China's new open-door policy led to a surge in foreign tourism. 14-year-old Jack Ma met a family of Australian tourists while he was greeting them in English every morning at the Hangzhou Hotel. This meeting would later lead to Jack's successful entrepreneurial career. Jack never gained admission to a prestigious university in Beijing or Shanghai. But in 1984, when he was 19, he raised his math score sufficiently to win acceptance to a local university, the Hangzhou Teachers College. He started as the president of the school's student union, and then he became president of the Hangzhou Students' Federation. He also spent a month in Australia in 1985, and during that time he changed a lot. He realized that China was not the richest country in the world, and he started to think for himself. He also became friends with the Morleys, an Australian family. The Morleys helped Jack financially when he needed to pay for his tuition at the college he was attending, and they also took care of him when he was in Australia. After he came back to China, Jack continued his education at the Hangzhou Teachers College, where he met and fell in love with Zhang Ying, a fellow student from Zhejiang. The couple kept their relationship a secret from Jack's family, and they married in 1990. Together, they have 2 children. In 1992, Deng Xiaoping toured southern China and encouraged entrepreneurship. This encouragement led to the founding of Jack's business. Jack taught English at a university, but he eventually decided to start his own business, and he started teaching English at a night school. Eventually, he ran out of time to teach, so he stopped teaching and launched his own business, which he named Hope. In January 1994, at the age of 29, Jack founded the Hangzhou Haiba Translation Agency. When the company first started, there were only 5 staff members, mostly retired teachers from the institute. Zhejiang province had a lot of small factories that were struggling to find customers, so many entrepreneurs started to form companies to sell products to make a profit. Jack started selling products on the streets of Hangzhou to make ends meet when he realized that translation services alone wouldn't support his business ambitions. He was eventually successful in his second attempt to start a business when he helped resolve a dispute between an American company and a Chinese government. Failures. Jack first time went to America to work as an interpreter. He met a man named the Boss and quickly realized that the man was a crook. The boss locked Jack in a beach house and threatened to shoot him, but Jack escaped and later won $600 on slot machines. He then abandoned his belongings and flew back to China. In China, he started a company called China Pages that helped Chinese companies find export channels online. China Pages, a small, privately owned company, was in a vulnerable state. However, it was about to get much worse. Zhejiang Telecom, a powerful SOE, made a bid to take over the company, and Jack lost control of his pioneering venture. Birth of Alibaba. Jack Ma started Alibaba in 1999. He had to overcome many challenges to start the company, including struggles with Hope Translation, China Pages, and working for the government in Beijing. Jack chose the Arabic name Alibaba because it was easy to pronounce in many languages, appealed to the business-minded Jack, and had a good reputation. When the Canadian owner of the Alibaba.com domain name refused to transfer the domain to Jack, he used AlibabaOnline.com and Alibaba-Online.com instead. The widespread recognition of the Alibaba name has saved Jack a lot of money in marketing expenses and a ready supply of imagery. Alibaba aimed to become an international website for small businesses. At the time, the Chinese internet was mostly used by businesses and the government. Alibaba's main competition was the three Chinese portals Sina, Sohu, and NetEase, which were all trying to capture the growing number of individual users coming online. At the same time, the dot-com bubble was in full swing, and losses were considered acceptable as long as a company's ambition was high. In 2000, Alibaba went public and raised $25 million in VC. However, the dot-com bubble burst later that year, and Alibaba's ambitions ultimately proved too ambitious for the company. The company's early success was due in part to the large number of foreign investors who were attracted to the company's potential for success outside of China. After the China.com stock market debut, which made Alibaba one of the most valuable companies in the world, the company's growth accelerated as new dot-com ventures began to sprout up in response to the company's growing popularity. Alibaba.com, an online marketplace that became known for its low prices and quick delivery. To attract buyers and keep costs low, Alibaba allowed vendors to post their listings in English for free. However, this model was vulnerable to internet funding shortages and the increasing competition for talent. In addition, the cost of talent spiraled upward as the dot-com bubble burst. However, thanks to Hangzhou's isolation and lack of established rivals, Alibaba was able to keep costs low and maintain quality. Alibaba hires mainly people who are a notch below the top performers in their school, with the goal of hiring people who will not easily get frustrated in the real world. They are paid very low salaries, but their bonuses and shares in the company are very beneficial. Alibaba is still a rarity in China to have an emperor-like boss who treats employees as disposable. The company culture is based on customer first and quality first. Alibaba is struggling to define itself in ways that investors can understand, with its main focus being as a bulletin board for businesses. Competition. Alibaba was one of many companies that started to create an online marketplace for selling and buying products. Other companies, like Global Sources and Meet China, were also starting to get involved in the market. The three portals, Sina, NetEase, and Sohu, that had attempted to go public before Alibaba did had hit a roadblock because the Chinese government didn't want them to monopolize the market. They eventually reached an agreement with the government where the portals would be treated as Chinese companies with Chinese investors, but would still be able to raise money from foreign investors. In 2000, the Nasdaq began a 2-year losing streak, wiping out trillions of dollars of market capitalization and taking down many technology firms. This caused the Chinese internet companies to stop issuing shares. This was the start of the Chinese dot-com crash. The Nasdaq bubble burst in 2000, and this caused many internet companies to close their doors. Alibaba, which had just IPO'd, increased its hiring of foreign employees to market the company to buyers overseas. Jack, the CEO of Alibaba, started to travel intensively around the world. As the stock market continued its downward slide, enthusiasm for internet companies of any description began to dwindle. In late 2000, NetEase's shares sank below a third of their IPO price and Sohu's under half. In 2001, only 5 months after a blockbuster Hong Kong IPO, the local portal Tom.com, backed by billionaire Li Ka-shing, laid off 80 employees. China.com followed suit soon after. The internet conferences started to thin out. INI even dropped the word internet and then faded into oblivion along with many of the companies that had once presented at its events. .com had become .bomb. At the time, they were both trying to build a company that could compete with the dominant players in the Chinese market. However, pressures from Goldman Sachs and other investors to make Alibaba profitable quickly caused them to split their company into B2C, business to China, and B2B, business to the outside world. However, this new strategy didn't work, and in 2001, Alibaba started to shift its focus back to China. eBay and Alibaba. In 2002, Alibaba, a company made up of businesses, was fighting against eBay, a company made up of businesses, in China's online marketplaces. Jack, the company's CEO, decided that Alibaba would target the Chinese consumer e-commerce market in order to protect itself. However, this decision met with resistance from the B2B business, which wasn't yet profitable, and from the VC market, which was closed at the time. In 2003, Alibaba finally launched Taobao.com, a website specifically for Chinese consumers, which was celebrated as Alidai, a Chinese holiday, and the date of Alibaba's famous group wedding celebration. Merchants who sell products on Taobao, a site run by Alibaba, often make high profits because of high margins on products. Counterfeit products are thought to be the world's largest illicit industry. Sales of pirated goods on Taobao helped boost the early popularity of the website and continue to be a bone of contention for brand owners. In response to concerns raised by the U.S. Trade Representative, Alibaba ramped up its efforts to weed out the largest traders of counterfeit items from Taobao. However, brand owners have not always been convinced by Alibaba's efforts. In November 2011, Taobao was added to the Notorious Markets list, published by the United States Trade Representative, which threatened to damage Alibaba's reputation with merchants. Alipay is one of the company's most important assets and is used to make payments online and in stores. Alipay is also used as a form of escrow, diffusing trust among Alibaba's e-commerce empire. Taobao and Tmall are the main online retail platforms in China. Alibaba, the owner of Taobao and Tmall, acquired Suning, a large retailer, in August 2015. Taobao is known for its outlandish and unusual products, and it also offers services such as commission sales, surrogacy, and auto loans. Jax Mantra. Jack the teacher is known for his mantra, customers first, employees second, and shareholders third. This mantra is what drives Alibaba's business model. Jack believes that it is the responsibility of all three groups to benefit from the company's success. Employees are important because they are the backbone of the company, they can overcome obstacles and help the company grow. Shareholders are important because they provide the capital to help Alibaba grow, but they should not be the only ones benefiting from the company's growth. Customers are the most important group, and Jack puts them first. Alibaba is a Chinese company that has codified its company values in something called the Six-Vein Spirit Sword. These values include customer first, teamwork, embrace change, integrity, passion, and commitment. These values are very important to the company, and they are constantly emphasized through company culture and the way employees are treated. One way that the company demonstrates these values is through the way it rotates its employees. This creates a lot of challenges but also allows employees to learn and grow. End of the summary. Thanks for listening.